Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the third session of today. Mr. Akhilesh will continue with his lecture. I think it's fifth lecture from Mr. Akhilesh, and Dr. Shubham Jaiswal will chair this session. So I think Dr. Shubham, now you can proceed with the.
Thank you, sir. So, good afternoon, all. I, Dr. Som Jaiswal, welcome you all in the third session of day 3 of 2-week workshop on scientific computing using MATLAB and Python. And as Suraj sir told, the current session is our expert is Dr. Akhilesh Kumar, who has already taken 4 sessions in last 2 days. And yesterday, sir, have talked about mathematical modeling and optimization using MATLAB. And today, sir, is going to discuss about machine learning using MATLAB. So I request to the sir, please take the chance and start the session.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Shubham, sir. Okay, let me share my screen first. The screen is visible. My screen is visible.
Yes, sir, your screen is visible right now.
Okay, fine, sir. Thank you. Very good afternoon, everyone. Today we'll see machine learning with MATLAB. So we'll start from the basics that how machine learning is started and what is the human learning as well. So human learning, then with machine learning, then further we will see that how we can give some kind of tasks to machine that machine will do for us. Okay. So this is my agenda for today actually. Human learning with machine learning, how machine learning work, demo on diabetes detection using machine learning, as well as one demo more I will show you on COVID-19 forecasting as well in this case. So we are going to create a machine learning model for both demo, and that is very easy to do in MATLAB. When I do, and you will get that how to do it, and very easily you can proceed for that. Even if you don't know the background of data science, still it will be very easy for you to do. Okay, what is human learning with machine learning first of all? Let's say that I am giving you some data and I am asking you take some decisions based on the data. So what will you do? You will visualize the data. You will do some kind of analysis in your mind, right? Based on that, you will take some decisions. So that is called uh, human learning. For example, if I'm talking about humankind, Homo sapiens, so machine learning, if I'm talking about, human learning, that is since the beginning, like how we survived, how humans survived, because we know that there were two kinds of food, good food and bad food, which are edible, which are not edible. So what our ancestor did in that case, they find out the some kind of pattern. They find out some kind of patterns that okay, this is a beneficial for survival, this is not a beneficial for survival. So we what I want to say, do a machine learning task or human learning task, we require to extract the pattern so we can differentiate that this is for this purpose and this is for the this purpose. If I am talking about medicine, different kind of medicines are for different kind of illness, right? If I have a fever, then I can't take a headache tablet, right? So so these medicines also exist since long ago, and our ancestors, they differentiated that okay, this is a this medicine will be used for fever, this medicine will be used for depression, this medicine will be used for this and that. So again, they extracted some kind of patterns from that. protection from animals, means how to protect themselves from threatening animals, how to protect from harmful animals, right? So like dogs are pet, cows are pet, right? They are they are not harmful for us, and they are beneficial as well for us. So again, there are some kind of patterns. If I'm talking about lion, we can't make it lion as a pet, right? They are harmful because they have different kind of patterns. For cow, if I am talking, for dog, I am talking, they have different kind of patterns. Same way for the forecasting. Okay, what is the pattern that when winter will come, what is the pattern in the environment or in the atmosphere that summer will come, then rain will come. Based on that, they were doing agriculturing and harvesting and this kind of things also. That is the example of human learning. So human learning is since beginning. So without pattern, learning is not possible. Either you are working on machine learning, or either yourself you are taking some decisions. We require some kind of patterns. Now, same facility, if I give to machine, that machine will do for us, that is called machine learning, deep learning, or we saw already statistical models also in previous session. Okay. So if I want that some kind of algorithm will do for us, some kind of machine will do for us, some kind of deep learning will do for us, that is called a machine learning. Okay, let's take one example of sunrise and sunday, that how we choose the algorithm. Let's say that I have to make some kind of mathematical equation or some kind of machine learning algorithm to find out the what is the cause of sunrise and sunset. So in this case, first, what kind of algorithm it can be? We can assume that maybe there is a switch to on and off the sun, right? Okay, if you choose this kind of algorithm, okay, if it is 6 p.m. then sunset will occur, and if it is 6 a.m. then sunrise will occur. Okay, your algorithm will work fine, but what about the accuracy? Accuracy also will get 70-80%. Okay, 80% I am correct that at 6 p.m. sun will be set and at 6 a.m. sun will be rise. But that the algorithm is completely wrong, and your assumption is also completely wrong. Right. Second thing, it will be that sun is rotating around the earth. Okay, in this case also, if you take a decision based on that, still your accuracy will be high, better than first one, switch and on. But in this case, your algorithm is completely wrong, right? Third, we can say that earth is rotating around the sun. So in this case, my accuracy will be also high, and my algorithm is also correct. So what I want to say that choosing the algorithm for your data is very important. You can choose any of the algorithm, but maybe some cases your accuracy will be not so much high, or if you are getting the high accuracy, but your algorithm is completely wrong. So that's why I try to explain through sunrise and sunset that you understand that choosing the algorithm for your data, that is very important. Okay, there are some steps which we follow from data to take decisions. So any kind of learning, if you are doing, we are doing to take some decisions, right? So first of all, descriptive, that is what happened in the past. That is a part of a data analysis. Okay, second is diagnosis. Okay, if it happened, then why did it happen? That is a diagnosis part. These are the steps which we have to follow. Predictive, that what will happen in the future, that is part of our data analytics. Okay, what happened in the past, why did it happen? If it happened, then what will happen in the future? That is a predictive analysis. Further, prescriptive means what decision we can take, what happened, why happened, what will happen. Based on that, we are going to take some decisions. Like if there is some kind of automotive industries, they are producing vehicles, different kind of vehicles. So okay, I launched this kind of vehicles, but it is not working in the market, right? So they will do some kind of data analysis on the vehicles. Okay, this much vehicles are, and what is the reason that vehicle is not, people are not purchasing that vehicle. There will be some issues, right? So based on that, they will create some kind of predictive model, and based on that, they will take decisions. Okay, this components are not good, the mileage is not good, or some issues are with the tires, some issues are with the engines, and based on that, they will take some kind of decisions and they will modify their vehicles. So machine and deep learning, they are used everywhere right now. Okay, these are some applications of machine learning. Speech recognition. If you have to recognize the speech, like based on the audio data, if you have to recognize that emotions of the persons, that if a person is happy or person is sad or person is, what is the emotion of that person, that is very important right now nowadays. If you want to know the person who is standing in front of the door, what is the emotion of the, he is angry, of course if the person is angry, you are not going to open the door. So for the surveillance purpose, you can use machine learning to design this kind of applications, right? Object recognition. So if you have to do some kind of live object tracking, or if you have to detect some kind of objects from your images or any kind of data, there also you can apply machine learning. Engine health monitoring, that is very important. And you know that so many companies are using proactive kind of things. Like in 2008 or 9 somewhere, there was a complete shutdown of electricity in India, because that time we didn't have such kind of applications. So the reason of shutdown was that if 7 sisters, you know about India, they are connected with one head office, and remaining states are connected with one head office. I visited NRLDC, that is the head office here in Delhi as well. So always they are monitoring the frequency, because we require a 50 hertz frequency. If there is any kind of changes, then maybe a big issue can come in the all over India. If from 50, if it becomes 60, because our devices are made to work on the 50 hertz. So in using engine health monitoring, you can extract earlier proactive kind of things you can do, that okay, this component is going to stop in the future, or some faulty data started coming. So if when you know already that okay, this issue is going to happen, and you can change the components, you can change the complete system also if you want, or you will have a backup also in the case of energy load forecasting. If you already know what will be a energy demand in the next coming year, already you will have a backup for that, right? Machine learning you can use in weather forecasting as well. Stock market prediction, very widely we have special modules and libraries available for stock market prediction. IoT analytics. So we can't imagine IoT without machine learning or deep learning, and we can't imagine machine learning without data, and we can't imagine data without sensors, right? So they all are connected with each other. That's why we say Internet of Things. Okay. Some other applications like taxi availability, airline flight delays. So if I am not correct that what will be a delay between two flights, maybe they can be crashed. So very high accuracy we require for that. And you know that from 2016, deep learning accuracy is higher than human. We can be wrong, but deep learning will not wrong. Okay, these were some applications about machine learning, as well as you may say for deep learning too. Okay, one case study, two case study I have, which I am going to show you. We will start from there. Everyone is aware about Mahindra, right? So Mahindra, they use machine learning in MATLAB to create a road condition estimator. Here which you see. Just wait a minute. 1 minute. They created a road estimator, road condition estimator. So first of all, what were the challenges? What challenges we face if I am driving vehicles, and what kind of challenges you can face? First challenges that about road surfaces and its conditions. So different terrain area in different region, there are different kind of road surfaces and its conditions. And India, roads are divided as a classes. Class A is a good road, class B is just a medium, class C, class D, like this. Class D are very bad roads. Okay. So based on that, your driving style will be also changed. If you're driving in the plain area, then your driving style will be different. If you're driving in a mountain area or hills area, then your driving style will be different, right? So based on the road, based on the different terrain, your driving style is also different, right? So these are the problems for any kind of vehicle industry when they are going to design. If I'm talking about India, they have to consider all these problems, and based on that, they have to optimize their vehicles. Okay, if a vehicle is driving in the plain area, it has to work. If your vehicle is driving in hills area, it has to work. And the most important thing is mileage of that, fuel efficiency, right? So if they have road condition estimator, then what could they can predict, like tire life, what will be a life of the tire, what will be a vehicle durability of that, and what will be a aging impact on that. Of course, fuel economy also, that is a miles per gallon, or you may say uh, kilometer per liter, right? So the process which they followed, first of all, they collected images like this. As I told, there are different classes of images. So first of all, they collected the images which are good road, bad road. I mean, these roads are Indian roads. Okay, based on that, they classified this as a good road and bad road. And the workflow which they followed, they collected and labeled the data. Labeling is very important. If this is a road, this is a good road, or class B is good road, class C is bad road. So labeling is important. So how to auto label that things, not to do manually, you will see in the deep learning. And further, they did some kind of pre-processing. Of course, if I am using machine learning, then we have to extract the features also. That what is the feature of good road, what is the feature of bad road, what is the feature of class D road, class C road. After extracting the feature, they generated a ML model in MATLAB, and they provided that feature. They trained the model, they optimized the model, and further, they wanted to deploy that model in a hardware for real-time applications. Okay. So Simulink is a platform where you can interface hardware very easily, and you can do various kind of testings also. After creating a model, they deployed on a Simulink. They generated a code. Already we discussed, lots of coders are available in MATLAB, and further they deployed on a targeted hardware for the real-time applications. Second case study about Tata Steel. Yeah, everyone is aware about Tata Steel, right? So Tata Steel use the MATLAB, they optimize their controller, and they save the 40% energy on cooling towers. So first of all, let me give a brief that what is Tata Steel. The Tata Steel Group is among the top global steel companies with an annual crude steel capacity of 27.5 million tons per annum. They produce steels actually. And geographically, it is diversified in 26 countries, and commercial presence is in over 50 countries. Yeah. When they manufacture that steel, I mean from iron, when they produce the steel, lots of heats are generated there. So they required some kind of cooling towers. So they have 200 cooling towers in the plants across the world. The cooling tower ranges are like 1,000 tons, that is a tons of refrigerations. So what was the issue? What was the challenge for them? Dr. Sarkar, who looks for that, he told, if we can reduce the energy consumption of the pump and the cooling fan, then energy will be saved significantly. First of all, they wanted to reduce the energy consumption of the pumps and the cooling fan. To do that, we have to install the variable frequency drive instead of the control valve. So before they were using manually, they were using control valve. So you can understand like that. Let's say that I have this kind of plants. To cool that, I am using 10 fans for that. So, but I don't know that when I require 4 fans, when I require no fan, when I require 5 fans, when I require 10 fans. So manually, when they were doing this, maybe I required only 5 cooling towers, but my 10 cooling towers were on. So there, what was happening? The loss of energy, right? So what they did, they created a variable frequency drive. How they did? They used the IoT first of all. They created a replica of the original plant in Simulink. And they use the sensors, they log the data from original plant, and they applied that data on the virtual plant, and they predicted the future behavior of that. Based on that, they optimized the complete controller, that is variable frequency drive, and they did some various testings also. They created some kind of data analytics model like machine and deep learning. Based on that, they optimized this variable frequency drive, and they implemented in the real-time plants. And they saved the 40% energy from that using the MATLAB. Some other case studies, BMW, they use machine learning models for their some applications. Mercedes-Benz, Honda, and this is a semiconductor company that is called SML. So very big companies they are, and they use MATLAB for their some applications. Okay, now what is the machine learning? Machine learning teaches computers to do what comes naturally to humans and animals. Learn from experience. It means that the things which we can do, the things which animals can do, we are giving same facility to machine, that machine will do for us. So machine is nothing, it is just an algorithm, machine learning algorithm. And it uses computational methods to learn information directly from data without relying on the predetermined equation as a model. So previous session when you joined in mathematical modeling, there we were predefining mathematical equation, that what kind of equation I want, right? So in the case of machine learning, we don't require to define any kind of equation. That's why it is a dynamic. Whatever new data is coming, based on that, automatically it will create a mathematical equation. If I am doing a regression, so we don't have to assign any kind of equations in the case of machine learning. Only it requires a big data. The algorithm adaptively improve their performance as the number of samples available for learning increases. Increase the samples of features, and your machine learning will have a robust model, and it will have also a high accuracy in that case. Okay, how machine learning works? So let me explain that how machine learning works. Machine learning is two types: unsupervised learning and supervised learning. Like clustering. In clustering, we don't have any output. We have just inputs, and based on that input, we identify the pattern. For example, unsupervised, that is also called unsupervised learning. And unsupervised means you don't have any supervisor. Like when you search something on Google, okay, when you search something on Google, whatever word or sentence you are typing, based on that output you will get. So that data are clustered in the Google. When you capture images from your smart mobiles, your images are automatically clustered, like as a name, as a place, all automatic groupings are done. So you are not assigning in that images, this is the place. Automatically clustering is assigning. Automatically machine learning is assigning that this is the place, this is the this is that. So that is a example of clustering. Okay, about supervised learning, you will have a supervisor also. You collect the input, collect the data, your supervisor will let you know that what will be output. Means when you are going to create a classification or regression model, you require inputs and outputs also. In the case of clustering, you just require data only. So again, supervised learning are two types: classification and regression. So in classification is also called a discrete learning. Why discrete learning it is called? We take some sets of inputs, we assign a class. So means, let's say I am saying that between 0 to 5 about temperature, 0 to 5 it is a low temperature, 5 to 20 it is medium, or 20 to 40 it is normal, 40 to 60 high temperature. So like this, we take a set of samples of features, we assign a class for that. In regression, we saw it before about regression. So for each and every inputs, you are getting the numeric outputs. That is called regression actually. Means numerical data we are using, or output you are getting the numerical. That is the regression actually, which we use. Okay, that is a continuous learning, which we say regression is a continuous. How do you decide that which algorithm to use? That is a big question, and that is a very important to know how you are going to decide that which algorithm you are going to use. So let me tell you, there is not a single model which can be fitted on all kind of data. So when you are going for machine learning, you have to know, like there is one machine learning algorithm, KNN, K nearest neighbor. K nearest neighbor work only same kind of data. If you have categorical data and if you have numeric data as well, you can't use KNN. So you have to know that what kind of data you have and what kind of algorithm are you going to apply on that. Like finding the right algorithm is partly just trial and error. Even highly experienced data scientists can't tell you whether an algorithm will work or not on your data without trying it out. So first they have to try that different kind of algorithms. Okay, this is the best one, then you are going to select that algorithm. Algorithm also depends that what is the size of data, what is the type of your data you are working with, and what insights do you want from that data, and where are you going to apply that insights. So these things you have to know. That's why I am describing this. So what insights you want to from data and where are you going to apply that data? That is very important. So here you see that different algorithms are available. Whatever algorithms are given in classification, you can't use in regression. Whatever algorithms are regression, you can't use in a clustering. So you have to know these algorithms here. Like support vector machine is there. Support vector machine works only for true or false. If you have only two classes, you are going to use the support vector machines. Okay, discriminant analysis is there. Naive is there. Nearest neighbor KNN, which I was talking about. In regression, there is a different algorithms like SBR, GPR. That is a Gaussian process, right? ZLM is their linear regression. In symbol methods, which you say random forest, right? Forest, for it, that is the in symbol here. Decision trees, here we are using the single tree only. And in symbol methods, we will have hundreds and thousands of trees there. So these things we have to know that what kind of algorithm it is and where we are going to apply. When should you use the machine learning? You already know, we discussed that. Means where you are not able to create a mathematical equation like handwritten rules. Equations are too complex. It will take years to create a mathematical equation for different kind of handwritten rules. For also in a face recognition or speech recognition, not easy to create a mathematical equation for that. You can create, but that is not easy. The rules of a task are constantly changing, like as in a fraud detection from transaction records. So fraud detection can be from ATMs, from credit card, it can be from online banking. So rules are changing in that case. The nature of the data keeps changing and the programs need to adapt. So as I told, like if demands is increasing, if the nature of data is changing, shopping trends change everywhere, every year, right? So we require some kind of dynamic models which can be adopted. So in that case, you are going to use the machine learning. So whatever we discuss, what challenges we can face during the machine learning. Data comes in all shapes and sizes. There is not a single algorithm which can be fitted on all data. Pre-processing your data might require specialized knowledge and tools. Pre-processing is very important. If you have missing data, if you have noise, if you have spikes, then you have to remove all that things and you have to prepare the data before machine. That is also a big challenge, right? It takes time to find the best model to feed the data. Okay, there are hundreds of algorithms, and which algorithm will be a best? That is also a big question, that how you are going to identify that which algorithm will be a best for your data. So this kind of things can be overcome through MATLAB, and we will discuss that how you can sort out this kind of issue, right? So before using the machine learning, ask yourself what kind of data are you working with, what insights do you want to get from it, and how and where will those insights are you going to apply. That is very important. This is a workflow of machine learning. We follow this workflow. First of all, we access and load the data. We pre-process the data to remove noise and spikes and missing data. And further, we extract the features from that. Okay, when features are extracted, we train the model and we iterate the model with, to optimize the hyperparameters. and further we integrate with the production system. And after integration, if you want to share as a .exe file or if you want to deploy in hardware, depends on you, that also you can do. This is the workflow: accessing, pre-processing, extracting the feature, then training the model, optimizing the model, and integrating with the production system. That is the complete workflow of that. How MATLAB can overcome what are the challenges we saw. In MATLAB, lots of inbuilt algorithms are there, apps are available there. You can compare different approaches, as if you're doing logistic regression, if you're using classification trees, or if you're using SVM, that is support vector machine in symbol method, in a single platform, you can compare with that all. So, and from MATLAB 2020, AutoML is also introduced to refinement and reduction techniques to create optimized model. And further, using MATLAB, you can integrate in enterprise systems also, in the clusters, clouds as well. And you can perform the real-time applications. You can deploy in a hardware also. You can generate the code also, depends on you. Okay, this is a first demo which I am going to show you. What is the objective? Prepare the data, exclude the redundant features, the features which I don't require, then rank the features also, that what features I require. Means there is two things. One is feature selection, means what feature I require, and another is feature reduction, means I am not going to remove the complete a single feature sample. I am going to reduce the features. So feature selection and reduction, two kind of things are there. Then we are going to create a predictive model for diabetes of patients. Okay, the solution we are going to use the live script, machine learning, and the predictors which we have in this case, like plasma glucose, age of the person, if female, then number of pregnancies, insulin, body mass, means what is the fat also, and blood pressure data we have in this case. Okay, so let me show you how machine learning works. First of all, we require a data. After data, we require a model. Means, are you going to use support vector machine, or what kind of things are you going to use? How it work actually, I am explaining you. Okay, we require a model. Then we require a objective function. Objective function, that will be a error objective function. Okay, fine. And the last, we try to minimize the error. Okay, this process happens: data, select the model, then error objective function, and minimizing that error. So machine learning and deep learning are self-learning. We don't provide any kind of equations. We don't make any kind of rules. Just give the data, and machine learning will learn itself. That's all. We don't have to do anything. So data, model, objective function, you see that here optimization also we require, right? So optimization is used everywhere. Okay, let me switch here. First of all, the data, let me show you that what kind of data I have. So these are the data which I have column wise. Pregnancies, number of pregnancies. This is a female data actually. The glucose value, blood pressure, that is the thickness of the skin, insulin data, BMI. This is the diabetes pedigree function data, age of the persons also, and the outcomes are 1 and 0. So 1 means person has a diabetes, 0 means person doesn't have a diabetes. Okay, so 0 and 1. So you see that 0, 1 are fixed value. It can't be a 1.5 or 0.5 or any kind of decimal, or it can't be a 2 as well, right? So we require to convert this fixed data as a category before applying the machine learning. Okay, so the steps which we are going to follow, I'm going to use the live script. So our first thing is that we have to read the data. Let me clear all output first of all. I am going to read the data by using the read table command, and this is the my CSV file which I am going to read. Okay, so this is the data which I have. Okay, just wait a minute. This is the data. Now, next step is to check if there are missing data or not. So is missing, and the sum of that. If there are missing data, I will let know that if there are missing data or not. You see that answer is 0, so there are no missing data. Further, you know that AE is as a table, we can extract any column as a structure, right? So last column is outcome, that is 0 or 1. So let me check that how many patients are diabetes and how many patients are non-diabetes. So you see that from this graph, non-diabetes are more than diabetes. You see. So before using machine and deep learning, we require to equalize this data. If you give this data, which I have right now, so there will be a overfitting, means it will create a model in a such way that it will predict only non-diabetes only, because non-diabetes samples are more. So you have to, when you are going to train the model, you have to always equalize the data. Okay, we discussed about logical operators also, right? If you remember. So from this age, okay, let me show you something that how find work, then we will go later. Let's say that I have some values here, something like that. Okay, I have these values. If I give this command find a is greater than equal to 5, it will give me the index that where I have that values which are greater than and equal to 5. And what that values are, provide this index inside and will get that values also which are greater than and equal to 5. So if you want numeric index, you will use find command. If you want logical index, you are not going to use find. If you're going to use the logical index, I mean logical index, if you want, just give the command, wherever the condition will be satisfied, you are getting one value, else you are getting the 0. So if you don't use find, it will give you a logical index. If you use find, you will get the numeric values in this case as index values, right? Okay, so what I am going to do, I am going to check that the persons who are above 50, how many diabetes patients are there and non-diabetes patients are there. So you see that A.age, this is the column greater than 50. I will get the index of that, and based on that, from this table, I am extracting the end column and I'm plotting the histogram of it. So you see here on below, which you see that is showing 0 and 1, and how many patients are there on y-axis. So you see that if age increases of any person, there is a more chances to get a diabetes. You see that there was a big gap if I was taking all the ages of females, right? In this case, I am taking only above 50, and you see that this gap is decreased. So I can say that if age are increasing of any person, then they have a chances to get a diabetes, right? Okay, second thing, already I told that the last column, which are outcome, we have to convert as a category. So here we are converting here by category command. So A.outcome, that is the last column where we have output, we are converting as a category, and we are saving in the same column again. Same table, we are going to save it in the last column again. A.outcome equal to category of this, and also what I am doing here, I am replacing 0 with no, and 1 I am replacing with yes. So this is a character, so I am using this curly bracket in this case. That is a cell type, right? So if I run this, and now you see in this table, the last one is replaced by yes and no. Yes means yes, he is a diabetes. No means he is a not a diabetes. So why I converted as a numeric, as a character, means character category. It is a character, but it is in the categorical form. So why I converted? So let's say that after 1 month, I am going to check that table. What if I don't remember, right? So I can say that yes, he is a diabetes, and no, he is a not diabetes. She is not diabetes, whatever. We discuss about Whorfun also. If you have to apply any function directly in any table, use the Whorfun, then what is your function name? What the function are you going to apply? And this is the table, and input variable means on which column are you going to apply? I am going to take the mean of ages based on the diabetes and non-diabetes patients. So in outcome table, we have diabetes and non-diabetes both. So if I run, you see here that who has no diabetes, the average age is 37. Who has diabetes, the average age is 37. So here also it is a proof that if age increase, then there is a more chances to get a diabetes. So this kind of pre-processings are very important before when you are going to apply a machine learning or deep learning. Basically, especially in a machine learning. Now, I am going to find out how many diabetes are there, how many non-diabetes are there. So this is the operator which I applied and the sum of it. So 500 are diabetes, 268 are non-diabetes. So what I am going to do, I am going to take 268 from diabetes, and from 500 non-diabetes, I am going to take 268 non-diabetes, because I require to equalize that. So I don't have more data for the diabetes. So better reduce this 500 to 268, right? So here, same thing I am doing. I am extracting the index of diabetes patients, extracting the index of non-diabetes patients, and you see random permutation I use from 500 randomly 200 index I am extracting, only 268 from 500. So randomly it will take. Okay, I don't require to modify diabetes one because all 268 samples I am going to take. So, okay, now you see that this 268 samples I have here, index I got from that. Now you see, I created a new tab. I am taking this diabetes patients, and here I am taking the non-diabetes patients. I created a table. I concatenated that both table. Means 268 from the diabetes and 268 from the non-diabetes. So here, this is the way how you can call from the table as a table. Okay. And this is for the diabetes, and this is for the non-diabetes. So you see, this is the index, and I want all columns. For non-diabetes, index and all columns, column. So you remember when we are discussing about how to extract data from matrices, right? Same way we can do. Now check the histogram of that. Now you see that we equalize our all data, right? There is a one plot here, correlation plot. You by giving this correlation plot, you can find out the correlation between all variables. Means all predictors, whatever you have, you can find out the correlation. So let me tell you, correlation value lie between 1 to -1. If from either side, from minus side or from positive side, if my correlation values are coming between somewhere near 0, it means that is not highly correlated and we can remove that. Okay. If I am comparing with the output, so you see that these are correlation metrics for that. This is the histogram of pregnancy, how this pregnancy is correlated with glucose. So two things are here very important. Let me tell you, let's say I have two predictors and both predictors are highly dependent for my output. And first predictor is doing the same task which second predictor is doing. So better to remove the one predictor. So what I want to say, in predictors, if they are highly correlated, if two predictors are highly correlated, we can remove one predictor. So in the case of predictors, they have to be highly uncorrelated. Why should I use two predictors if one predictor can do the same task, right? So one predictor we can remove. So in predictors, all have to be uncorrelated, but with the output, it has to be highly correlated. Predicted have to be highly correlated with the output, but not in themselves. So here we can find out that they are highly correlated or not correlated. Based on that, you can remove some predictors. That is a part of a feature selection. Okay. Okay, there is one thing more here that is called minimum redundancy, maximum relevance algorithms. Okay, so what will happen here? It will let me know which predictor are highly correlated with my output. So we can take that and remaining we can remove that. So this is the function here that is called minimum redundancy, maximum relevance. Okay. So redundancy will be less and relevance will be high. So this is my table, and in the table, what is the output I defined here? And I am doing the bar plot of that. And what will be X label, Y label, you can define like this, right? So this is the bar plot of that. Whatever the scores I got here, I am doing the bar plot. Based on the score, I can select which I require and which I don't require. So from here you can see this graph, glucose is highly dependent for the diabetes. If I have to predict if a person is diabetes or not diabetes. BMI also, age also matter, and you see that pedigree function and blood pressure are not required. If I have a high blood pressure, if you have a high blood pressure, it doesn't mean that you are a diabetes. So this bar plot is showing perfectly that we can remove the blood pressure, we can remove the pedigree functions, and we can take all these predictors in that case, right? Okay, we got till here, we did the analysis and we prepared our new data also from here after equalizing. Next step is to choosing the best algorithm for our data. What will be a best algorithm for our data? Okay. To do this, go in the app. And this is the machine and deep learning part. And this is the classification, right? Yes or no. So I'm going to choose this classification learner. A new window will be opened and we can choose this classification learner to select the best model. So first of all, the table which I have here, that is a new tab. The name is new tab and it is still opening. Let it open first, then I will show you how you can access this. Okay, it is open now. This is the table which I created. This is the table which I have. You see that 9 are predictors and the last column is the output. Okay. So I'm going to give that table as an input to this app. I have to click here new session and I'm going to select this new tab. And you see here you can select that what is your output. So output is that last column, that is outcome. It is already selected and remaining are predictors. Fine. Next, about validation. After creating a model, testing and validation both are very important. So there are two ways you can validate your model. Cross validation. And you see that here it is written 5-fold. You can increase or decrease also. So what is the cross validation? Let's say that I use the 5-fold for cross validation. So in this case, what will happen? Randomly 5 times my data will be distributed. And 5 times all data means all data randomly it will be splitted for the training and validation randomly 5 times. And 5 times my model will be trained and whatever accuracy will be, that will be a average accuracy of the 5 trained model and that will be a final accuracy. So when you have less data, always use cross validation. Divide your data in a 5-fold, train the 5 times all data and take the average accuracy, that will be your final accuracy of your model. Hold out validation. If you have big data, cross validation will be very slow. If you have already big data, your accuracy will be fine. So you can use hold out validation and some percentage you can hold out to validation, validate it later when your model is ready. So this app will do for you everything. Okay. No validation means you are not going to do validation in this case. If you have data in your files, then import that data in MATLAB and when your model is ready, then validate it. So in our case, we don't have so much data. We are going to use cross validation. And now I'm going to click start the session. Okay, it takes time little. Now you see here this output which you see here. You see in right side, what is on x-axis and what is on y-axis. It shows that how this data are distributed. And you see that if I am talking about glucose and pregnancies, both are very highly correlated. Data are mixed with that, right? The red color which you see here, right side is showing that yes, cancers are diabetes, and blue color is non-diabetes. The grouping of data, that is a G-scatter plot of that. Okay, I want to check BMI with respect to pregnancy. That is the BMI with respect to pregnancy. You can see the variation of that, and you can find out if data are correlated or not. So in this case also you see BMI and blood pressures are highly correlated. Both data, you can't distinguish this data. They are mixed with each other, right? They are highly correlated. So by this watching figure also, from here you can untick features which you don't want. Okay. Now about training part. Here, these are the algorithms. Tree method, that is a decision tree, single tree you are going to use. If I have a time, then we'll discuss about algorithms also. Discriminant analysis, logistic regression classifiers, Naive, support vector machine, so many algorithms are there, right? So to choose these algorithms, I can choose individually also if I want, or I have option here, you see here, choose all quick to train. If I choose all quick to train, it will select only that algorithms which are faster and which are supported for my data. If I choose all, then it will train on all data which are supported as well as which are not supported. If I choose all linear, then it will choose all linear regression. My equation can be non-linear, but it will choose all linear regression in this case. I am going to choose all which are supported and which are not supported. Okay, if I select this use parallel, then whatever course I have, let's say I have 4 courses and I choose the use parallel, then 4 MATLAB will learn in a background. So at a time, 4 algorithms will be trained. So I am not going to use parallel because I don't have so very big data. If you have big data, then you can choose the parallel also. So your algorithms will learn parallelly because all algorithms are independent. They are not dependent with each other. Now I am going to train this, and one by one, it will train on all the algorithms. So it is in queue now. Now you see that training is started. So first it is training the tree and the accuracy is 67.8. If accuracy is higher of any algorithm, that will be highlighted. So right now you see that logistic regression has a higher accuracy and it is highlighted. Okay, one by one these trainings are going on here. So right now support vector machine is better. And support vector machine is supported here. You see that because there are only 2 classes only, yes or no. So training is still going on. Now in symbol method it is trying, that is a forest, multiple trees in this case. So it will take a little time. And in this graph which you see, wherever you see cross that are misclassified, the cross which you see. Okay, trainings are done. You see that how fast it is done. It says that support vector machine has a high accuracy with 75%, right? Okay, I used all predictors. Let's say if you want, you can remove some predictors also, like blood pressure and this diabetes pedigree function, and you can check it again. Diabetes and this blood pressure. Okay. And after removing that, you can train it again. And you can check the accuracy. Okay, in our case, this support vector machine is perfect. Fine. Now, I selected this and I am going to click the confusion matrix. It will show me a confusion chart of that. So what is showing me? No means no diabetes. 212 are perfectly classified as a no. Okay. 56 from no. 56 from no misclassified as a yes. This pink color which you see, and blue color is correct and pink is wrong. Same for the yes, you see 78 from yes misclassified as no, and 190 from yes perfectly classified as yes. Good. So far so good. So no issue. Okay. You can see a ROC curve also of it. So if it is around 90 degree, then it is perfect. So you see that this is bended. If it was 100%, then it would be a 90 degree in this curve, right? Okay. Further, when you are happy with this, that now you are happy with that, but if you want to improve more accuracy, then in this case you can load more data set, or you can optimize the hyperparameters. Here's the tuning option, that what kernel function are you going to use, quadratic, cubic, and kernel scale will be what, right? So this and box content level, what will be for in the case of support vector machine. So you can optimize by changing the kernel function, by increasing or decreasing the iterations. So we have options. Same here, we have option to optimize the hyperparameters also. Optimize options also available here. Okay. So lots of options are here available there. So if you're not happy with this, you can optimize the parameters of that directly from this app. But in my case, let's say I don't want to optimize more. I selected this, and from here, I can generate a code for that. And I can use this function to train a similar kind of data and create a model. So two outputs we are getting. First output will be a predictive model. Second will be the accuracy. This is the function name, and function name, the input arguments is a table, the table which we created. If you have similar kind of data, you can use this function to train the model. And you see that below, fit CSVM is used for two, if you have two classes. If you have more than two classes, and if you want to use SVM, so there is a multi-class support vector machine that is called fit CECOC. You see here, if I select this, if I go here in help, and if I open this function in here, you see that what syntax you have to give. Fit CSVM for the support vector machine, table name, and from the table you have to define what is your output. That's all. Your model will be ready in a single line. I will show you. See, this is my data, X data, Y data, Y is the output, X are inputs. Use fit CSVM, give the input and the output, your model is ready. So in this case, whatever parameters values are there, it will take automatically through MATLAB, from MATLAB. That will be optimized parameters value. But here, we provided what will be a kernel function, if there is any polynomial order or not, everything we defined it here. Okay, next I'm switching here in the app. If you don't want to generate code, MATLAB code, or if you don't want to do further modification, here is the option, you can export it as a model. Export compact model is used to generate a C++ code from Simulink. If I click on this, I will get my predicted model in a workspace. So here you see trained model, and this is my model. And if you have to predict on new data, I will use this trained model dot predict fun, and inside I will provide the new inputs, and it will predict that if a person is diabetes or not diabetes. Okay. Now, if you have to do by code, so always remember one thing, if you have to do by code, how it works. If you don't want to use the app, okay, my mouse is not visible. Okay, if you want to do by code, first of all, you will use CV partition here. Using CV partition, you can divide your data. Okay. Next step is, if you are using classification, then this fit C will be the same for that. And further, what algorithm are you going to choose? And next step will be to calculate the loss. If you are not happy with that, then use FitC to train it again, then predict on new data, on testing data, the data which you split it. So like this, it will work. If I am using classification, I will use FitC, fine. And if I use the tab command, these are the functions which I am going to use. These are the functions, that which functions are you going to use to train your model. Let's say I'm going to use FitCSVM, and I am going to provide the table name, that is new tab. In a single line, how you can create a machine learning model. This is my table. In my table, what is the output? That is outcome. And if I run this, I will have that model in a single line. So it will take a little time to train it, and I will get the model. Now, okay, it is still executing. Let's wait. I see that I have this predictive model. I have this predictive model right now. And if you want to do regression, then fit, instead of FitC, you are going to provide, just wait a minute. Instead of FitC, you are going to provide FitR, use the tab and choose any kind of function from there. And your model will be trained. Okay, next, I am going to switch here in my code. The code which I generated, this code which you see, I am going to use as a local function. So I copy pasted just the below of my live script. This is my function which I created. And this function I am going to call above here. So when I run this train classifier, this is my local function. I provided my table and I got my model as a train classifier here. And now from that tab, I mean the table which I created, from there I am going to take first sample, first row 1 to int -1. Why int -1? Last column why I am not taking, that is the output. Okay, first row and 1 to int -1, all rows that are predictors. If I predict this, if I run this, and let's see what is predicted. Yes. So let's check in the Excel that first is yes, 1. Value is 1 means the person is diabetic. So like this, after creating a model, you are going to predict on that. Okay. So if you have any questions, you can ask me. Otherwise, I will show you the next how you can use machine learning as a forecasting model and how you can use as a regression. So if you have any questions, you can ask. So otherwise, I am going to show you the forecasting model.
Yes, sir. There is a few questions from the participant.
Sure, sir. Please ask.
First one is, what is the difference between machine learning and deep learning?
Okay, very good question. Okay, let me explain all kind of predictive models which are available and which you see. I'm going to talk about fuzzy. I'm going to talk about mathematical model. I explained that in second session. I'm going to explain again. Deep learning, machine learning. So when you are going to use fuzzy, when you don't have data set, fuzzy was designed if you don't have data set, because it was designed long ago when we didn't have sensors. So this is based on the human logic. Let's say that you are a farmer. If you are a farmer, you will be knowing that when rain will come, when rain will not come, because you are doing the agriculturing, right? So I can make some logics. Okay, this is the summer and this is the May, and around 2 temperature will be this, humid will be this, then rain, there is a possibility of rain. So when you don't have data, then you are going for the fuzzy logic. When you are going to for mathematical modeling, when your nature of data is not changing. If I'm talking about humid, I know that what will be humid in the summer. There is a specific range. Either it cannot decrease or increase. The range will be between 0 to 200, whatever. It will not increase or decrease. Then in that case, you can go for mathematical modeling. When you are going to choose machine learning, already we discussed here, when it is not possible to create a mathematical equation. So machine learning was basically designed for that, but people are using in various applications also, even if they have less data, like I showed you right now, or traditional data. So when you have big data, you are going for the machine learning, but there is one issue. Whatever data I have, in my case, I had a traditional data. I had not to extract the features from that, right? So I use the machine learning. Let's say that you have a big data as much as big that you are not able to extract the features from them. Then you are going for the deep learning. In deep learning, you don't have to extract the features. Deep learning will automatically extract the features. So you have huge amount of data, like Facebook kind of data, Google kind of data, huge amount of data. How they will extract the feature, right? When feature extraction is not possible, go for the deep learning. Hope that doubt is clear right now.
Okay, sir. The next one, from where we can get this type of data for our experiment if a beginner wants to do some demonstration?
Okay, there are inbuilt data available in MATLAB. Let's say I'm using the machine learning. Go in the help of machine learning from here. See, go in the help of machine learning. Okay. And go in the example, sorry, about machine learning I'm talking about. So I am going to explore the machine learning from here, data science and deep learning group. I will go here, statistics and machine learning. I will go in examples. In every example, data sets are available in the MATLAB. You can use that data set. Okay, if you want other data set, I hope you are aware about Git and GitHub. You can search on the Google and you can download the different kind of data sets also. So right now, because of internet, it is not a big task to get the data. You can get from GitHub, some other platforms are there, lots, like with the data which I am using, I downloaded from GitHub. So this kind of data set very easily available. It is available on website. Just search on the Google and you will get that data set.
Yes, sir. And another question is, how to decide the given data is big or small?
How to see? I think whoever is asking question, I think you didn't join my third session. I told you, if any kind of data which can fit in a single machine, that is not a big data. That is a traditional data. Big data are that kind of data which cannot fit in a single machine. It requires multiple machines. Like Facebook, they have many servers, they have many machines, they are loading that data. And big data also not depend only the data which you have big, it depends what is the speed of data. What is the speed that you are logging the data, you are extracting the data from that. That data are called big data. In your life, whatever data you saw, what I saw, I don't know about you, but what I saw, I didn't see big data. But I know big data exists, like Facebook, Google, email which they are using. They have a huge machines, multiple machines where they are collecting that data. That data cannot fit in your single machine, that kind of data. So that data are big data, the data which you see right now anywhere with your eyes, that are traditional data, not big data.
Another one, sir, is what is the difference between language R, SAS and MATLAB?
Okay, different languages have different pros and cons. So first of all, don't compare with other languages. If you're talking about R is completely for machine and deep learning, and that is the open source. MATLAB is not open source. It depends on you that which software is more user friendly, in which software documentations are very proper. So overall, what we have to do, I have to design my model and in a quick time, right, without any issues. So depends on you. So you can't compare actually. So MATLAB is not only for machine and deep learning. MATLAB is for model based design. MATLAB is for optimization. MATLAB is for biological data analysis. MATLAB is for image processing applications, computer vision applications. So don't compare actually with that. And R is only for data analytics part only. So now it's on you that if you are working on machine and deep learning, which is best for you, MATLAB or R, it is your duty actually what you are going to choose from that. Okay, depends on you. Any other questions, sir?
Sir, one student wants to, can you please explain confusion matrix again?
Again, sure. Let me check. This is my table. This is the confusion matrix. This is the confusion matrix first of all. So you see that on y-axis we have true classes, right? On x-axis, we have predicted classes, first of all. So the blue one which you see, that is a truly classified. The in pink color which you see, that is a false classified, or whatever you say, false true, right? So it shows that from true classes, 212 perfectly classified as a no, means no diabetes, are perfectly classified as a no, and from no, 56 are misclassified as yes. So if I'm talking about this class, from yes, 78 are misclassified as no, and 190 are perfectly, means truly classified as a yes. Hope you got this time.
Okay, sir. I hope it is clear to that participant. And
Any more question?
no, sir. You
Okay,
can
one last example which I am going to show you, that is about forecasting. So I have data set of COVID-19 patients of India till 25th or 26th of May. Okay. So how to create a forecasting model using machine learning, how to use the regression. So here it is written, to forecast the values of future time steps of a sequence, you can train a regression machine learning, first thing. Second, the responses are the training sequences with the values shifted by one time step. So you got what it means? I will show you when I open that. Okay. And at each step time of the input sequence, the machine learning learns to predict the value of the next time steps. What it means, let me show you by this Excel file which I have. How to make it as a forecasting model. This I am going to talk. So you see, I have confirmed cases 639, and next date the confirmed cases is 697, and next day 887. So let's say that my present state means present value means the input is 699. At 699, I will make my this next output as a output on this. So 639 is the present input. Next output will be 697. Then 697 will be a present input, and 887 will be a present output on 697. Then 887 will become a present output. On this present output means present input, and on this present input 1026 will be a present output. So again I am repeating. Right now let's say 639 is the present input, and in this input I have to make this as a output, the next output whatever it is coming. So 887 will become again present input, and 1026 will become a present output. So like this we have to create a data for machine learning. Okay. Means we have to shift the outcome, we have to shift one step time ahead. That's all which we have to do in this case. So first of step is to read the data. So I am reading data, extracting all tables, confirmed cases, active cases, recovered cases, I am going to plot. And in this data, if you see, if I open this outside the MATLAB, the data which I have till 26th of May. Okay. Okay, this is the plot of all data. So simple plot command you can give, and on x-axis you can give the time command, on y-axis the column names, right? So confirmed cases, active cases, death cases, and recovered cases you can see till 26th of May. Okay. Okay, now next, very simple, here you see, by using this command, I am partitioning 90% for the training and remaining percent for the testing. Depends on you how you are going to divide. You can make the 2 Excel file. By MATLAB, just simply I am multiplying with 0.9, and by numeral command, I am counting how many number of elements are there if I am taking 90%. That's all. Okay. Now you see that this is my input for the training. I started from index number 1 till this. Let me run this first time and show you. Active cases is what? That is my active cases which I extracted from the table. Okay. Active cases from index number 1 to index number 56, I am taking as an input. What will be output? Next time step, next time ahead, or you may say next time step. So I am starting from the index number 2. I am taking this next one. Same for the testing also, same thing I am doing. Whatever I took from active cases, so number of time step trend plus 1 means from next time step I am taking int minus 1, and here you see that it is here plus 1, and here I am taking the plus 2 means next. That will be output for that. So like this you can create inputs and outputs for your data. And now you see I am going to concrete in a single matrix. So if I open this data value, the important thing is you have to understand that thing, what I am doing. So if I open this matrix, you see here 8585, what is the output? 636. See, 8636, what is the output? 794. See, 794, this is the output. Okay, first is input, second is output. At 917, what will be output? 1024, and see there is a 1024. 1168 will become my input, then this will become my input, and what will be output? 1420. So like this you have to create a data set for the forecasting if you are using machine learning. Okay, now I have this table, and this is a part of a regression. We are going to choose the best algorithm for that, and from here we are going to use this regression learner, not a classification. Great. So it is still opening. Okay, I will click on this plus sign. I am going to choose that numeric data, numeric table. So you see that first one is input, and second one, column 2, is automatically assigned as the output. About validation, we discussed already. I am going to start the session. Okay, in this case, right now what I am going to do, you see this is the graph, and let's say I want to plot column 2 with column 1. This is the plot. Column 2 on y-axis and column 1 on x-axis. So you can see this is very dependent. Second thing, in this case, I am going to choose which are faster and which are supported for this data. In this case, I am not going to choose out, and I am going to train. So in this case, the output of model will be as a root mean square error. Means we will compare different models based on the root mean square error. You see that linear regression, root mean square error is 418. And you see in other cases, what is the root mean square error? 4000. If I have to use tree method instead of linear regression, then I will not get the high accuracy. And see here in the coarse tree method, the error is, root mean square error is 19,000. So you see that this is highlighted, this is the best one, right? So, and the graph which you see here, for every outcome, it's showing the original original observed data and predicted from the model, that is yellow one. So very less error you see, because that COVID data are in thousands. So 418 is not so much if you compare in that case, right? And further you can, from here you can optimize it also if you want, and predicted with actual plot. In this case, we can't plot a confusion matrix. Confusion matrix works only in classification. So the black one which you see, that is the predicted response with true response. If predicted response means from the model and the true response, that is the observed output. If both are equal, then you will get the straight black line, right? And you see that the blue one is the predicted one, almost it is coming on the black line, means your model is perfect. And again, export this model. I'm going to export as a short name as a PP. And this is my model as a PP. And this is the linear model, PP dot. If I type linear model, you will see the what is the model. You see that this is the equation which is created. If you remember my first session already, we discussed that about annotation of equation. It means column 2 is equal to 398.57 plus into 1.0342 into column 2. This is the equation. We didn't assign any equation. Automatically machine learned and it created a model. It has created a model. We had not to assign any kind of mathematical equation. Okay, here is the model. Here is my model, PP, right? And let me see that what is the last value here. Last value is 63172, right? That value is of, okay, let me select from here, active cases. The last value of 25th of May was 82,146. And I want to predict the what will be a COVID-19 patient on 26th of May. Sorry, 27th of May. pp.predict fun, and here provide this value. Okay. It will this data is of 26th of May. If I run this, now it predicted. Let me do a format bank. So it is a format sort actually. So you can see full numeric value in this case. Fine. Okay, I am predicting again on this. So it is predicting what was the COVID-19 patient data on 27th of May. And again, if I provide this answer, it will predict for 28th of May. Sorry, answer, not because it is saved in answer. No? So this is of 28th of May. I want to predict what will be on 29. Again, I will provide this one. This will become input, right? So it will predict for the 30th of May. Like this. So now you can see that a forecasting model is created, right? Okay. So here the code which I generated, I copy pasted, I am using as a local function, and I am going to call it. Sorry, here, this first we have to call this, and the testing data which we splitted, I am going to predict on the testing data also. And I am going to take the mean square error, root mean square error, means this is the predicted one, this is the output one, take the square of it and do a mean and take the square root of it, then you will get the root mean square error, right? This is a simple math. So it shows 790 root mean square error for the testing. Okay. Now I am going to plot both. Predicted one means the data which we use for the predicted and the forecasted one. So you see the blue one which we use, that was the original, I mean the data which we use for the training, and this red one which you see, that is predicted one on the testing data. So perfect, it is going. So very simple it is to do forecasting. Already we forecasted here by using this command on testing data. Just by giving the hold on command, we are plotting the data which we use for the training and the data which we forecasted in the same figure. That's all. Now I am going to plot original output and predicted output as well as error also. So you see that the blue one, again hold on command, the blue one was original output of testing data, and this red one which you see, that is a predicted one. So almost it is the same. So we can say that the model which we created, that is robust, right? So that's very simple. Subplot I am using here, or you may not use the subplot, means two plot I want, row 2, column 1, and this is the index that where I am going to plot it. 2 rows, 1 column. You can make like this also, 1 row and 2 columns, means the configuration of this plot. So this is in a single figure actually using subplot. If I undock this, you see that in a single figure both plots. So this the second plot is showing the root mean square error at every point for the testing. Okay. Now for 30 days forecasting, I have data till 25th of May, add 30 more days, and what will be a forecasted value. So very simple, you can run the loop from 1 to 30, predict, provide this predicted input here like this in this function. It will predict for the next time step, and again it is saving as a predval, and this predval will be again it will become the input for that, right? That's why I provided the same name as the input arguments and the output also. So whatever output will come, again it will go for every iteration, it will go as the input, and here I am saving the predicted values for the 30 days. When I is equal to 1, then index number 1 will be saved, whatever is predicted. When I is equal to 2, then at index number 2 it will be saved, and further I am plotting that forecasted value. So you see, this is the forecasted value from May 27 to 25th June. So on 25th June, total COVID-19 patients were around, it's showing 2.4 lakh. $60 days forecasting, you can run this loop for 60 days and you can predict till 25th of July, it says that total COVID-19 patients were 6.7 lakh. And data which I had, only data which I had till 25th of May only. So this way you can use the regression and classifications.
Excuse me, sir.
Sure, please ask.
Time is going to over. So,
Yes, that's all, sir. That's ended. Session is ended. If you have any questions, you can ask.
okay, sir. There is a few questions. One is, what is the difference between live script and script in MATLAB?
Okay, you see that I am using live script. This is a live script, that's all. Here we have some tasks also. We saw how to apply, use these tasks like pre-processings, all these tasks, right? This is a live script which you see right now. In a script file, you can't visualize your figures. Let's say I'm going to use the script file and I'm going to plot something here. Let's say I'm going to plot 1 to 10 data, just simple. And I'm going to save this script file as a, let's say, YMCA demo, right? I saved it. And when I run this script file, whatever figure will come, it will come in a different figure window. But in live script, we were visualizing our figure and numeric data in a same figure window, in the same script file. That is the difference actually. So live scripts was introduced from MATLAB 2016. If you have earlier version, you will not get the live script. This is the only difference. And only one more difference, it is a .m file and that is a .mlx file. That's all.
Okay, sir. The next query is, how we can reduce confused cases in confusion matrix, as accuracy matters there.
Okay, accuracy. Two things are very important. Accuracy is only not important. Let's say that I am getting accuracy 76% during training, and I require that accuracy 76% during testing as well. Or if I am using with live data, still I require 26%. That is a robust. And let's say your accuracy is coming 90%, but during training it is coming 60%. So there is no use of that, right? So to make your model with high accuracy and robust model, means if you are getting 76, then you are getting always during testing as well. So in that case, already I told you can optimize the hyperparameters. So just if you go here, when you search here just simply like this hyperparameter, you will get the option that how you can modify, how you can optimize the hyperparameters. What are hyperparameters? That parameters which are more sensible for your model. So you see that this is the way how you can optimize the hyperparameters. Their functions are available there. Okay. Second way to make more robust I'm saying more robust, you can increase the data set. So how, if you don't have data set, one question you can ask, okay, I don't have data set, I have limited data set. So there is a way you can add some random noise and create more data set in the MATLAB. There are different functions available. So you can increase the data set. You don't require to log new data set. In MATLAB, add some noise, different kind of noise. Your data set will be increased, right? Any more questions, sir?
Yes, the last one is frame theory used in signal processing and data analysis?
Can you tell me again, sir, what you were saying?
Is frame theory used in signal processing and data analysis?
Frame theory?
Frame theory.
F-R-A-M-E.
Yeah, F-R-A-M-E.
Frame theory, I have to check what is actually, I don't know actually what is the frame theory.
Yes, sir.
For that I have to check. You can mail me, I have a mail, and just give me a test mail and I will check that what is the frame theory first of all. Actually, I don't know what is the frame theory. So this is my email here. I'm not getting what is frame. I know that there are, you can transmute your data as a frame or as a one by one, depends that are you transferring data as a frame or as a channel. That I know, but about frame theory, actually, I don't know. You can write me on an email. I will let you know later. Okay.
The last one is how is this term deep neural network different from machine learning and deep learning?
Okay, this question, this answer you will get on 11th. I have a session, one last session that is on 11th.
Yeah.
Okay, so you will know that what deep means. Deep learning is also machine learning, but I will tell you day after tomorrow that what deep means. So no worry about that. So still one session is remaining for that. Okay.
Thank you, sir. I hope the understanding of the participants in machine learning with MATLAB get enhanced after this session. So the next lecture of you day after tomorrow in
Right,
the
sir. It is
first,
on 11th in the
yeah,
morning. Yeah, in
in
the
the
first session is mine. Right.
yeah, in the first session. Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, Akhilesh sir. So that's it from today. So we will meet tomorrow at 9:55. Thank you,
Sure,
participants.
sure, sure. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much.